Talking about this floating car, there was a floating car, and we always felt
the taxi cab.
The taxi cab, it didn't look real, but it's.
We talked a lot about how fast the ship should come.
Yeah,
I remember we changed this a lot, going back and forth. How fast the ship should
also,
come.
Also, we added now breath.
Dog breath.
Yeah, dog breath too. Actually, one of my favorite scenes because it shows how the world is upside down.
This blows people's mind.
There's a Russian tanker kind of floating through Fifth Avenue, which I think is like a symbol for the whole movie, that the world is upside down.
The other thing, though, that's so great is that, it's what movies are all about, which is you say, how could the ship really end up on Fifth Avenue? But you buy it, and I think metaphorically and symbolically, it's more important that you have it than you say, oh, that could never happen. I mean, I think that's where you have to strike this balance between reality and spectacle. We thought we were going to have to reshoot. Dennis wasn't happy with it. We weren't sure about it. We cut it together, and I think it worked great. Add a little ADR.
Yeah, a little ADR. And also, we cut it shorter and shorter and shorter. And at the end, there was... the end always worked. It was only his explanation was always a little bit clunky.
Right. He's president again. What should we do? What about the people in the North? Up, there's the genius vice president, and there's the Secretary of State. Where should they go? He didn't make it. Florida that aren't flooded. How about that alliteration? Florida flooded. You didn't want to hear about
the famous scene where we discussed forever. Always said he was so fighting this idea that he draws a line.
That's my favorite.
A line on a map, and I said that's the only way you can visualize it.
That's the whole movie. It's just a great dramatic moment.
Sometimes Jeffrey had really great ideas, but certain things he also fought.
He really resisted. He got a little bit, that wouldn't happen, or he wouldn't do that, or that feels,
And we in editing, we always said, all these reactions. We always said, he drew on our map.
I know.
He drew on our map.
I know.
He made a line on our map.
How dare he?
How dare he?
Does he realize that he's in the White House? He drew on our map. He drew on a map in the White House. How dare you? Also a moment where, again, it's funny about performances, just little moments. When he says we're all going to need it, I just love his performance there. And I think, did we try ADRing it, but the production, we never messed with it, did we?
No, actually, he ADR'd it.
He did, but he did it exactly the way he did it before.
I mean, he was really good. He was really good at matching himself.
He was really good.
Yeah, he was.
He's really good. Mr. President, what are we going to do now? What do you think we should do, Mr. Vice President? What should we do?
And then finally, he kind of makes a decision, and that's kind of really good.
That's our hero.
Yeah, it's his hero moment.
It's the hero moment of the president. Of course, we did kill him off, but that was sort of fitting for the man to die in a heroic way, which is coming up shortly. What do you think we should do?
Okay, let it alone.
What do you think we should do? Right in front of that presidential seal.
Kind of stolen from another movie, I have to admit. There's a movie called The Day the Earth Caught Fire.
Yep.
And there's a scene where the editor, when he finally finds out that the world will go down, first calls his wife. And
that was a last-minute thing, too.
No.
That wasn't that in the script, was it? Didn't we decide to do that while
probably,
we were shooting? You kind of remembered that scene?
I don't really know what we decided.
It's all a blur. It was 7 years ago, wasn't it, Roland?
Yeah, it feels like.
It feels like it.
It feels like it.
For these guys, and if we hadn't, set it up, we never would have been able to pay it off in the way that we did.
Because we saw one guy is a soccer fan, another guy has a kid, and
right,
and then you buy into that.
And everybody, and what's interesting is how big a laugh you get in the U.S. on the Manchester United, even though people here aren't soccer fans, but just the fact that he was such a big fan and he's able to say.
I think that's why this movie is in England such a success, because
it's the Manchester United, exactly.
17% in the fifth week.
Unbelievable.
That's kind of good. And he had Harry Potter against it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had some stiff competition.
Yeah, we had first Shrek 2 and then...
we were right sandwiched in between.
Shrek 2 and Harry Potter.
We were the Day After Tomorrow sandwich.
Yeah,
the bread was Harry Potter and Shrek 2. What a nightmare. Next, a lot of big entertainment still to come. There goes the lights. And This is one of my favorite visual effects shots. That is so real looking.
Yeah, and it's all digital.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's amazing, actually, what you can do with like a digital. I mean, I was always like on the fence.
For a couple $100 million, what the hell, you know? What you can do with a little bit of cash, you know? Don't try this at home, but...
No, but it was like not that expensive. But
this movie, actually, we only spent, what, $7 million on this picture?
Yeah, sure.
I will say that something that I'm really proud of is... Oh, there's some of those very... inexpensive breast shots that we put in the movie. But this movie for the summer, with all the big Troy and some of the other movies, we were the least expensive of the summer movies. Something I'm really proud of.
Of all of them.
Of all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, substantially less money than some of these other pictures over the summer.
Yeah. We labored forever. Some of these shots took like 10 months to get them right.
Oh my God. I think that physical effects, the floor effects, and the digital effects, it meshes really well. I was really happy with the integration of it. And sort of.
We had like an outside the window when we were shooting. This was like a painting in the background.
And it was really close. I was worried that we were too close to the set.
And Karen, you know, was already like kind of taking the notes for every shot, so she could like replace it.
She did an amazing job. She was like, all over it.
Well, no, but
she goddamn
like,
Palm Pilot.
She was like not
convinced that it was gonna work.
Like it's gonna work, and I said, "Sure, it's gonna work. It will look better than you like kind of visual effects."
It was amazing.
Sometimes it's low tech effects which are the best.
Hey, and how about that breath, huh? All digital.
Remember when we discussed to kind of cool down the stage?
Yeah, we talked about the fact that we were going to open up the stage doors and shoot this.
Yeah, and then like Neil Corbella, our floor effect guys, said to us, like, guys, it's not only about how cold it is, it's how much humidity is in the air.
Oh my God! Not only that, we would have still been shooting the picture had we tried that. Opening up the, make it cold.
Yeah.
And we talked about using real snow at one point.
Maybe like I would have sped up this scene because we shot like 2 days on that scene.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how many. That's the first time.
If they were colder, maybe they would have gone a little bit faster in the scene.
I felt a little bit like Stanley Kubrick in that scene. After all of a sudden, somebody said to me,
"Let's try it again."
No, it's like after I did 50 takes
on this shot
in different sizes.
Yes, but this was it was on Jake, who was having a really hard time getting this.
Yeah, getting
I mean, and it wasn't really his fault. It was just, I think that a scene like this is all about in the moment. It's you can have the script, but the script is almost a guide for a scene like this. Shot too.
Yeah.
God, it's so beautiful. There's the Empire State Building, a symbol of. What do you think? Do you think the Statue of Liberty is probably the symbol of New York, but next would be the Empire State Building?
Well, I think anyway, like a whole New York, I think is a symbol for Western civilization, and that's why you want to kind of.
That's why we couldn't have let the movie take place anywhere else.
Any other city. Actually, when I kind of started this picture was before September 11th.
I know.
And
you read the book during the when we were making the Patriot.
I already started writing my own script, and then
and quite a good script it was too. I know that you think that it was a good first draft.
Yeah, and
it was.
So when like kind of September 11 happened, I stopped writing for nearly like 7-8 months.
Is that
because
you felt that maybe it was inappropriate or?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that.
And then I kind of
I knew that you had put it away, but I didn't know that that's why.
Then I gave it to you, and and everybody kind of said, no, it's like
this again. Everything that we shot, all the exteriors except for a couple,
is interior.
Is we shot inside. But what's again, this is on a soundstage. This piece here, and by the way, this we didn't even ADR. These were wild lines that they got perfectly, right?
Yeah.
We just adjusted them a little bit.
A couple of like ADR lines, but
pieces.
Most of it was simply, we call it the wild track. When after the actors are finished, we like kind of shooting the scene, and there's kind of noise on the track. We sometimes ask them to kind of do a wild track. This means they all stand around in the corner. They have still remember how they played the scene.
Now that's
then you like kind of record all their lines again.
That's outside.
Yeah.
This is
the
inside.
The car.
Everything looking.
This is outside.
This looking the other way is outside.
That's pretty good.
That was cold that day too.
Yeah.
Into Mexico sequence, which again gets a big laugh, but also again, I think people were really as you would say, turned on by the subversive nature of this part of the movie.
It's the reversal of fortune idea the movie has as an underlying theme.
Into Mexico.
It's actually like kind of very short scene, but boy, was this like we shot a whole day on this thing.
We shot. Didn't we shoot a couple of days?
And there's like a digital enhancement of a couple of people.
Was
in the
this all
background.
one day?
Yeah, this was one day.
We shot 2 days in El Paso, 3 days in El Paso.
3 days.
But that sequence was.
Yeah, one day was like kind of the border crossing, like the actual border.
Right.
And everything in front of the consulate.
That was it with like 5 or 6
and then one was
cameras that day.
then one was the border crossing, and then was the
Exterior
rest was
of the embassy. What do you think we were going to burn? That Barry built.
Mm-hmm. That's the trustee room.
Right.
And a lot of this movie from now on plays in that room. It was a pretty important set, and we shot there for like kind of a week or so.
Oh, at
it was
least.
It was,
it was 10 a long
10
time.
days.
We were in there for a long time.
And like kind of at the end of the movie, we got stuck in there.
Oh
right?
my God.
Yeah.
Remember Break the Glass?
Yeah.
We kept banging that thing against the glass, and it would not break. How did we get it to? Did we put?
I think
eventually we put charges in there,
they
right?
put them
We had
charges
to. We
in
had to kind of explode the glass.
Mm.
Oh, those wacky movie
And
makers.
we always like kind of.
Here's a funny. This is one of my
totally
favorite
upset
moments.
about it.
What about?
The glass didn't break.
Oh, he couldn't
thought it
do
was
it.
Like
His macho self couldn't bear the idea that he couldn't break that glass. I'm a macho guy. I can break that glass. Let me try it again. Let me try it. All actors are like that. No matter what, it's like it's physically impossible. I can do it. I can do that. I'll break the glass. I can do it.
In the audience when they
Forgive the Latin American dead.
My favorite scenes in the movie.
Remember how we got stuck on this set? We could not get out of here for some reason.
It was really all worth it. I mean, at that time, that's the only place where we went like I think 2 days over, and everybody was freaking out.
Well, because we, for whatever reason, and it was weird, but it was performance. Took us a while to light it.
It was like a
It took
location.
a long time to get this right. This was also at the same place where we shot Headland and Noah. It was right a couple of buildings away in that same
shot a lot of
complex.
this movie in this one building.
Yep.
And I think they're also good. I mean, we got really, really, really lucky there with the actress, the black actress. I forgot her name. I mean, what was her name?
She was great.
I know that her
I
character
can't
is
remember.
Maria, but I forgot her name. But she was she only did this one scene or like 1-2 other little scenes, but she's so convincing.
She was wonderful.
Yeah.
Was she from Montreal or Toronto?
Toronto.
Yeah. But you know what? Surprisingly, we were able to cast a lot of actors in Montreal, more than we thought we were going to be able to. They were really good actors in Montreal, and a lot from Toronto. I mean, we had a great time up there. The crew was great. The actors were terrific. Can you act it out for us?
Yeah, no, it was like she's like kind of stops. She says like Maria, says what? Can you tell my husband that
Leave a message for my husband at the American Embassy.
What should I say?
Tell him I had to read a little boy's bedtime story.
He will understand.
He'll understand. That was in and out, in and
out.
out.
And then at the end, out. And I'm
I think it was
actually
the right
happy.
decision.
It was
too much.
Actually,
it was too much. Gilding the lily.
Gilding the lily.
Oh, I hurt my leg. Oh, that's gonna come back.
Or like kind of in editing, they once like kind of put a shot in it. It's like quite hysterical, a gunshot.
Is that true?
Like, she kind of like flinches, and then he says, "What's wrong?" She says, "Oh, nothing." It's like one of these editing room jokes.
It was so great. We saw a lot of actors for that part.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of actors. He hadn't done much, had he?
No.
I mean, there wasn't any film that we saw. He was just had that wonderful quality about him. He was so good in the audition.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
I don't think he's gonna make it.
And he's such a nice guy.
Oh, what a sweetheart! Really lovely. And his mother was great too.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah,
She was always making cookies and stuff.
Yeah.
And cakes. Very sweet woman. She was the whole time.
Remember, like in the whole scene outside, we had actually planned to shoot this scene exterior. It's a tanker like capsized, and there's like a huge snow drift, and they drive. They don't see it because of the blizzard. Driving in this snowdrift and get stuck, and then have to walk from that time on.
We worked great on stage.
Well, and then we like kind of tried to shoot it exterior, but what we realized
We
it's
did?
like. No, we
never
didn't.
shot. We
No,
never
never
shot it, right? We
but
talked
we
about
actually
it.
we set all this stuff up outside, and then it was too cold.
Right.
It was simply too cold, and we had to kind of shoot it in indoors.
Well, like everything. Like everything.
The problem was also because you had like always to have like kind of extreme winds and wind machines, the wind chill factor was so enormous that nobody could like kind of be in that wind.
When we were shooting outside, we were dying. I mean, even if it was just an hour, just a few things that we shot, which weren't necessarily in the worst part of the winter, we were freezing our asses off. And I think because we had another scene that came after it that we cut, but I think this scene as an end for the most part, other than when we see him later in the snow, but he actually, again, here I am commenting on another actor's performance. Hey, he was really good.
Yeah.
Here, can you hear that? Just a little pat on the shoulder there. Good job, fellas. Insulate.
Much longer once the scene, and we kind of cut it down to the essentials. They're now bonding. First, like kind of he was giving her a look when he talks about eating out the garbage. Now he takes his advice, and it's sometimes very little things which make a big impact. Talked with Jeffrey, we had like labored on the scene forever, and then we had one about the Kilimanjaro.
Right.
And you told Jeffrey, well, that's just not good enough. And he said, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then he wrote, like, actually when we were like on Christmas break, Jeffrey went with me down to Mexico.
Right.
And he wrote there like kind of this scene, and I really immediately fell in love with it.
It really was a great scene.
Another scene later, which we can talk about it later, but where we're like
sort of the riming scene to that,
mirrored it, but
which
like
we took out. I think it was right to take it out. Yeah. And then we did the reshoots.
Yeah, and
this scene, we worked really hard on trying to get the right level of snow on that exterior wide shot.
And it was like the Waterloo. I always like call this. See, this in every movie there is one scene where you labor and everything goes wrong. What could possibly
this was the day that we never got not this day, but when we were doing the underneath the mall.
Yeah.
We didn't. This has never happened to me before, where we literally didn't get a shot off all day long, and we let everybody go home early.
And I had a stiff neck because we kept looking up.
Oh my
to
God!
This like glass.
That was horrible.
And it was like all these shots where we like kind of shot the roof from down below.
Yep. That's a nice. Again, I love that camera move. It's funny the things that you fall in love with. Just it's not like it's this incredibly dramatic shot, but I love that. That move up to him, up to the pick.
And you remember when we tried to kind of shoot the down angles in real? So like kind of poor,
yeah, he had a hard time.
He had like a hard time. The actor had to hang,
Oh, with all that shitty snow in his mouth and his nose.
Yeah, and then we're
horrible.
and he was like really hanging as high as he is hanging here.
Yeah.
From the roof in like kind of this warehouse. And it was really cold. And then it didn't work. And I kind of said, guys, scratch it. We do this with a model and blue screen. And
after all that, he's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. And then, I like kind of left and said, second unit can shoot that.
I know. It's like, the hell with this. Give it to Anna. Let her clean it up. This is too hard.
Okay.
I don't know why that always cracks me up.
There's certain lines, like Mark has really fun. Only when we watch the movie.
This, I could never understand why you had them take their gloves off.
Yeah, because
can you get a better grip when you take off your hands?
Probably, but also I wanted to have him like kind of.
You want to see some blood hanging out there, exactly.
And I thought it was like kind of convincing.
Listen, I think people were horrified by it. This made me cry for at least 6 months, and then finally I got over it. After watching the film for 6 months over and over and over again, I always cried. I always, I have to say I was tearing up, 5-6 times during this for the first, 2 years of cutting the film, and then finally I said, well, I've seen it 750 times now. I can't. I've got no more tears.
Then he was tearing up when he heard the first box office number.
Exactly. Tears of joy.
Yeah.
Tears of joy.
Tears were of joy too.
They were all tears of joy. Tears of sadness, tears of a clown, the Smokey Robinson song from 1960 blah blah.
Remember this scene, we first shot, and we shot it with a too wide a lens, and it was like totally ugly, and then we had to reshoot it. One of my favorite scenes. It's actually Jeffrey's idea to.
The Gutenberg Bible.
The Gutenberg Bible was a really good idea.
We cut this scene down too. This was a two-part. There were like two parts to this, right? It was the dawn of the age of reason. We
took
took that
a
out.
couple of lines out, but it was an important scene because when you like kind of burn books, you also have to save a book, and it also is great that it's a Bible now. But he doesn't save it because he's religious, because it's the first book ever printed, and that. And again, it somewhat like kind of shows what like a man's accomplishment really were, and I always like that scene because
it's
it
a
gives
really
the
nice
whole
scene.
movie some philosophical depth.
I mentioned that I think she was really good in the film too. Here we go. Here comes the ambulance. The fireman.
Hard time.
But I thought he was good, actually.
Yeah, and then at the end,
I never could understand
really,
why you were having it.
I started to like it.
He's really believable.
Yeah, he's very believable.
We heard somebody was left behind. Could have played.
You would have been good in that.
I think I would have. I think many people think of me as a fireman.
You're good at Sila's part.
I think so too. You know, this is a great shot.
Yeah. Where we labeled.
And we talked a lot about whether there was too much snow coming into the lens, and which, I mean, these are the things that we just over and over. How much snow? How dark should the ship be in the background?
Yeah. In a way, the conclusion of their story.
Yeah.
Kind of very risky when you have a story conclude early in the third act. I mean, it's not really the third act. It's the end of the second act. Which is like traditionally something what you don't do, but
we had to
because after that she is out, and then there was
otherwise he would have been talking to her and she wouldn't have been talking back because she would have been out. That would have been kind of a complicated scene, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked. Shaking her, can you hear me? I love you. I love you. Huh? What? The thing is I may be repeating myself, but the idea that in an action movie you don't have, it's like musicals from the 50s. You have all those dance numbers, and so you have less time to deal with the character story, which is why when you develop these kinds of scripts, when you're writing these kinds of scripts, you have to have quintessential moments. And again, I think we were able to accomplish that. You don't have a lot of time with them, but I think that their story tracks really well, and I think that the audience really seemed to connect to it. I know I did.
Sorry for the jet noise.
You know what? They were great together.
Now comes the moment where she kind of auditioned.
Yes, the kiss.
And there was like a little piece of spit.
Little spit there
I never
hanging
saw
in
it, and then
between
somebody like kind of saw it, and we had to digitally remove
the
it.
beauty of digital technology. Just take that spittle right out. That little link.
It was like just here, like
link
kind
of
of
spit in between them.
Connecting.
There
them.
it is. That
I thought it was kind of sexy.
I liked it. I'm a spittle kind of a fellow. You know.
This was like
I like it.
Shot in blue screen with a model.
Yep.
It's like
Is it time to go yet? Is it time to go? Okay, I'm ready.
We're the last one.
Okay.
No, I mean it's like it's the captain, doesn't want to leave the sinking ship.
You know what? We're making fun of the real president, not this president in our movie.
Because Perry King was a great.
He did a great job.
Yeah, great.
He did a really great job. Great. This is cool.
It looks really presidential.
We just shot that one section, the section in the center, and then everything else is digital. All the the refugee camp.
Overall, what we like kind of shot in El Paso.
This was our third day in El Paso. This was a bitch of a day, and we only had like 45 minutes to shoot all of it.
Yeah. Rehearse all day, and then in the right lights, because I wanted to always have this as a night scene.
That was on the stage.
That's on the stage now.
Good job of matching the exterior light to the interior light that we shot on the stage.
A lot of people say like the movie looks really, really good.
You did a beautiful job.
Sometimes like forget that. And
it's gorgeous.
You remember when we were like kind of shooting it? We constantly came out of the dailies and said, "Isn't this looking beautiful?" And you sometimes forget that.
You're caught up in the process of editing the film. He didn't make it. He didn't make it.
This was also like a scene where everybody had problems with.
This scene.
Yeah. And
well, that's hard when you've got so
so
many different characters having their little individual moments.
Yeah, and everybody has his like kind of moment, and at the end, I think it turned out kind of great.
This is a line we didn't get a laugh on.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know why, and I don't know whether it was that the line wasn't that funny or whether, she didn't really leave room for the laugh in a funny way. But I think that's probably better. I think that we thought it was funnier in the script.
Yeah.
And she kind of threw it away, which was realistic and believable.
Yeah.
And I guess at that point in the movie, you don't want a big laugh.
Yeah.
But we didn't really get any chuckles either. I don't know. I always thought it was funny. That's attractive. Hey, how about a little gangrene?
This moment now that's coming up, because we don't really say what's going to happen, but you know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
He looks up, he turns,
Or what?
and asks her what. She only looks up. That says it all. They had
And then-
actually more there, but it worked so much better.
This was the
And then
multiple
these-
timpanis that you put in here.
And then I was during the mixing. We had like in the temp track, some drums.
Yeah.
And whatever they did,
You fell in love with it.
well, I fell in love with it. And then I said, "Get me these drums."
And did we
They were
did we
constantly
record
replacing it.
them, or did we
Well,
actually stole them from another cue?
No, actually, what we went during the mixing at the last. I mean,
It was after
the last day of
it was
the mixing.
pre-mastering,
Actually,
right?
somebody ran in the studio because the mixing, the music studio is right next door,
And they-
organized one of these drums, and they're kind of recording the hits of this drum.
The timpani, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Boom, boom.
yeah. Every other drum didn't sounded like that.
How sound can really sell
Where they
the
are.
background and where they are, yeah. These graphics turned out.
Sorry, interrupted. Oh. Sorry, interrupted doubles.
Really good.
yeah.
They did it. Who did this?
It's like a Folkers company.
They did a really good
yeah,
job.
Yeah.
What's the name of the company?
Uncharted
Uncharted
territory. It's
Territory.
like a company. I think the visual effect company has a different name.
Yeah?
I forgot it, what the name is. Built this whole stage as a snowscape.
I know, the whole
The scene
thing.
is like 35 seconds.
At one point, didn't he get so much snow in his nose and in his mouth that he was vomiting
Yeah,
violently
yeah,
from this snow that was
But that was like
blowing
when
in
we
his
shot
nose?
the
glass is breaking.
Yeah.
That scene.
The glass is breaking scene.
yeah,
What are you punching holes in it?
because he has
There
to
are
put
already
like
holes
some.
in them.
Yeah,
There's
but they
already
have to make
holes in
them
it.
bigger.
I gotta tell you though, I was always wondering why he was punching the holes in, but I love it.
Because
I love that.
he uses like a tie, to make it like kind
It's
of
a
the,
pencil, right? He's got a pencil
Yeah.
that. I love that. I'm going with you. Bum, 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 bum. It's getting exciting now. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, here we go. It's getting exciting. Bum, 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 bum.
the stage where the ship set was in.
I almost had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
You actually dragged me in there, covered up my eyes, and said, "Okay, open your eyes now."
It
It was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
No, Honey, I Shrunk the Stage.
Honey, I Shrunk the
Because
Stage.
the stage was like this. The ship looked like kind of enormous in this like kind of small stage.
It looked like a cartoon.
Yes,
It was
yes.
like somebody, quadrupled the size of a ship and blew it up. Up there are those digital wolves that we paid millions of dollars to ILM for. Don't they look real? Yes, they do. Cost $1 million. Dollar wolf you got there, baby.
More wolves, but it was always
We found the balance.
No, it was meant to be like a hurdle, an obstacle, and it became like too much. It was like too much.
Well, you know what? What happened was it became a whole section of the movie as opposed to it being a piece of what was going on, an impediment to them getting back. It became too much. And you know what? This is where the testing process is so helpful because I think we found the right balance and the right time for that section of the film with the audience's help. I think that was really, a good example of the value of testing.
Including Laura.
Is that fearless breath or what? That's not dog breath either. That's real breath. That's digital breath, not dog breath, digital breath. It's real breath, digital breath.
Shot the scene.
That we were in there for a long time too, and
Well,
that,
but
was,
like a very-
that was a miserable set to shoot in.
Yeah,
it was
but
so
but
small.
on the other hand, we had also like very little time because I wanted to get out of there, and in a way, I'm really proud that I shot this whole sequence in 5 days.
Is that all?
Oh yeah, I shot this in 5 days. While we were like kind of shooting in the other stage,
We were shooting the astronauts
the
stuff.
astronauts.
Space station.
And here there's like it's the only real, animal.
It's the only real fake wolf.
It's the only real fake wolf, and there was like some hybrids, right?
No, that wasn't real. That was animatronic. That was an animatronic head.
The head was animatronic.
Right.
The other stuff was like kind of digital, and there was like one body in there. That was like kind of the dog.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fabulous graphic again.
Now with like New York under it.
Yep. Bum, bum, bum. Here comes the big music again. I'm singing again. La 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 la. Boom.
Remember that like some scare in there? Where they're like kind of sitting there for a while.
Yeah, we played that. Well, this whole sequence was much longer. There's that
much longer.
fabulous breath again.
It's really important to kind of connect with him looking up and down,
Well, that was also the idea that it connects to what his father was saying, and that he's really the only one who would understand it and recognize it. It's like the eye of a hurricane, except it's only,
Sometimes it's like only the order of shots.
Look at how great this is. Again, this was on the stage. You've got the building, on Fifth Avenue, the ship wedged in, shot in somebody's living room. It certainly felt like that.
A little bit bigger, but it felt felt like
it was like a ship in a bottle.
With actually real wolves.
That is a scary shot. Yeah. That was one of my favorite things when I first saw ILM's first, first version of that. It scared the hell out of me.
There was like
That's a great shot too.
There's actually a moment in there where he stabs one of these wolves. Remember?
Yeah, we took that out.
Throws it out, but it made it like kind of too unrealistic.
Too much. Also, that little blood there on that was fabulously gross. The way he jumps up and bites the glass.
Doesn't make any sense, but
but it's good though.
Yeah, no, sure. It was also
hey, you know the old expression. Yeah. My writing teacher from NYU said, Tad Moselle, a wonderful writer and a great teacher. Real life is no excuse for bad drama. So the hell with it. It wouldn't have been any blood on there, but it sells it, baby. We sold the scene.
Again, it's.
This was on a stage.
Yeah, on a stage. This was actually blue screen here. In one direction, it's blue screen, and on a stage. It's quite a bitch to like kind of match these two.
Oh my God!
Looks.
But again, and this was the thing that we were the most worried about, and this was the thing that took the longest visual effects wise to get right, to get the super freeze right.
I always was very worried about the supercell because it's like, first of all, it's clouds. And clouds are very, very hard to do with digital technology. And
do you think clouds are harder than water?
I think yes, because when you kind of look at movies, what always looks the most fake. It's like the clouds, right?
Right.
And
of the windows blowing out.
Sorry for interrupting. A dog's barking.
Late in the process, right? Which I thought was really great.
Well, it came
that was never in the previs.
No,
you never thought about that.
But it started with ILM asking us.
Look at that. That is so cool. I'm sorry.
It actually started with ILM asking us if we could if they could have some blown out windows in the later version.
Right.
And I kind of turned immediately to
Karen.
I said, let's do that. Let's
blow it out as the
super
freeze is
and
coming
something
down.
is happening and.
Totally cool.
And it really kind of gives it also scale, because otherwise it's very, look here for example, starts to look like a model, and it makes it more realistic.
This actually, I think, worked better than anybody ever expected it to, because we never knew whether the whole idea of the sort of tendrils of this super freeze, that the frosted stuff was going to work. That turned out great.
Yeah, and it's but there was a lot of tests and labor, and we were kind of laboring with this forever.
And remember, we had the wolves for the longest time. The wolves chased them back to the library, which we took out. We actually, on one of these shots coming up, I think it's this one, we had to digitally remove the digital wolf. I'm kidding.
No, we had here some wolf coming here,
Right.
and here one jump in.
And we also had when they came in later, when Dennis and when they came in, there was that model that the fake wolf on
the fake wolf is like kind of
on the ground, which we did have to take out.
Yeah.
Right? We did take that out.
No, we like
or was it a different
we
shot
cut around it, and then in one shot we had to add some like kind of glowing under the door. Remember?
Yep.
Buddha, get away from the door!
The man.
Turned out great. Oh man. And this was a reshoot.
And now from now on we're like in a reshoot, which we reshot mainly because in the other scene they're like kind of waking up, they're flipping burgers, they eat, they sit down.
It's all very casual.
They talk, and
no urgency.
And you don't felt any urgency anymore. It's the urgency went out of the movie. So we like kind of decided to do very late into the game, very late.
Yeah, we were. It was really probably like 6 weeks before the release of the movie, 8 weeks before the release of the movie.
And it actually came out of one of the test screenings where somebody said, I sure wish we could have like kind of a scene where they immediately go out there again.
Right. It was just too, they were kind of talking about this, and it's like, hey, the kid's dying in the library, and you guys are having hamburgers and fries. It was just didn't quite work.
Yeah.
But I thought this worked really well, and I have to say the studio was very helpful and very, supportive of doing this. We all agreed.
Every movie will reshoot something. I mean, even movies which work very well. We reshot even later, like kind of 3 weeks before we
Independence Day.
Before we had to lock picture in Independence Day, or like had to kind of print master. We reshot something in like 3 days. It was quite more complicated than what we did here.
Sammy.
All reshot, because now
I thought the snow matched really well.
Yeah.
It looked really, really great.
I remember there was at one point, we had like a real big money problem because we had such a big.
We were used to shooting with such a big backdrop that we
like kind of here had to kind of trick it a little bit, shoot it a little bit tighter.
There's Ulysses.
Yeah.
BQ here. We haven't really talked a lot about the music, but
there's all the frozen
beautiful.
people we had like kind of before in the car. In other places we took out now here come handy.
We turned lemon into lemonade. We didn't use them in the other scene, but we were
that's the only
here.
That's the only head we made new, remember?
Right.
Like of the
And I was surprised how many people recognized it as Campbell, the cop from the library. I didn't think people were going to recognize it. I thought maybe we had obscured his face too much. This is a scene that we shot.
Yeah. It's like one of my favorite scenes now because...
well, it's got that, uncomfortable moment where he's talking about, maybe he didn't make it. And again, it works better with no words when he stops than it would have.
Survived the last ice.
This piece we used in the original.
Yeah, there was like actually a piece of dialogue which we had in the original scene.
Right.
We could like use here now. At the end of the scene, we like have the feeling that Jason doesn't believe the kid is still alive, and there's this very uncomfortable moment between them. Then Dennis, I think in a great piece of acting.
His performance is great.
Yeah, really, where you see he has to keep going.
Right in here. After. Love his, nonverbal acting here.
Also Dash
the
is,
reaction.
he's so good.
So good. This moment here, just really, you can see that he wants to cry. You can feel that moment.
And there's Florida.
Yeah. Florida that aren't flooded.
Sounds so easy when you like say the storm is breaking up, and then you have to kind of create
this
it.
Killed us also. There's no bad guy in this movie. Our bad guy is the weather, and all of a sudden, it just goes away. And we had a really hard time with this, trying to make sure that the audience didn't feel like, oh, and now it's over. Part of obviously why we set up this
and you remember we
sense
shot
of urgency.
Also something down in Europe, the
Eiffel Tower
that
we didn't use,
and then we didn't use it because it was so much felt out of place.
Yeah, well, we were never.
And we had also like here this shot, which is coming
this
up,
back shot,
which was like so much more impressive. Also, again, shot on stage.
Everything.
And blue screen, and it looks quite amazing.
The sky is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Who did that sky?
That was like ILM.
Really, they did both of these shots,
right?
Yeah,
both of these shots.
Really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
This moment when
two
we
or three.
So I interrupted.
Favorite shots
Yeah.
of the movie. This one, and then the next, and then the following. This really kind of great.
And there were a couple that we couldn't use because we couldn't get a couple of shots we had to take out.
Yeah.
One in particular that I really wish. This is my favorite. To me, this is the shot of the movie. It's just so says everything about what the movie is.
It's like in a really
visually
kind of
and
cool angle,
metaphorically.
right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, very,
This is a great shot too.
yeah. Which is like kind of strange. It's like a shot. You remember we were like kind of laboring and laboring.
Oh
and
my
so that
God.
doesn't.
Well, we
look
weren't
like,
even sure we were gonna
yeah,
get there with
but I
this
used it,
shot.
Yeah.
We cut. No, not this.
No,
the
this
shot
shot. This
after
is shot
the
is
shot
like-
after this. This is an amazing
Yeah,
shot too.
yeah.
I think this shot, the overhead of the Statue of Liberty, and the wave shot, is the shot that sort of that people really remember.
Yeah.
From
And this shot we did twice too, because at the very beginning, like
We needed
other
it for the
company
trailer.
did it for the trailer, and then like ILM did the final. So no, I have the shot twice.
There's the shot. Then there was a shot in
there was
between.
an in between where we see
coming
them,
into New York,
yeah.
which was a shame. We could never get that. We
Yeah.
just didn't have time.
We ran out of
There wasn't enough time, Michael. There wasn't enough time. President Corleone.
Like at the 10 scene, we will like kind of know that they both have this like kind of feeling that he's not surviving. This moment really works, and before that, it really didn't work.
It didn't. This is all inside. This
Now they have
shot.
hope. We
Now
had
this
also-
shot. This is all digital, right?
Yeah,
So I interrupted.
that's all digital.
All digital.
All digital. But like, you remember we had also at one point like kind of smoke coming out.
Of the chimney.
Yeah, from a chimney.
This is also great because again, we remember the library scene.
And that's
and
in
that
real.
phenomenal set, and then we built
We did
this
like
whole.
one shot.
I know. Well, we had
One shot.
but it was worth it. But we had
Yeah.
to build that whole,
Yeah.
wooden thing to get everything down. Also, this is all, we iced up this library.
Wondering how this could look, and I always like said, well, iced in like a broken refrigerator, and they like a little test, and I never liked it, and then he said like, you mean like in Dr. Zhivago? And then I said, yes, like in Dr. Zhivago.
That's exactly
and
what it was.
They did it in real.
Yeah.
They had no snow, so they blew endless water over this house.
So
and it
great.
became this ice palace.
Least favorite shot in the movie. He complained about this endlessly. The door handle just doesn't feel real.
Well, it was like this really, there was this really expensive set, and then there was this plastic
door handle.
which was not really functional.
This
he had
scene,
a point there. I mean,
he
I
was
think
right,
he had a
but
point.
you know what? We sold it with sound. This scene we spent a lot of time working on.
Yeah.
Stop her eyes from opening
Yeah,
digitally. We delayed the
we-
opening of her eyes digitally,
Yeah.
just to get that moment where we could get the flashlight on him before she opened up
Yeah,
her eyes,
yeah.
which was a good idea. Moment. I cried for the first 7 months at this scene, but then eventually my tears dried up and I couldn't. Could I no more?
I was nervous about that scene. I kind of asked David to cut it, remember? And then came to you and I said, like, the next day he had cut it. And I wanted to know if it works. And I kind of took you and, like, I think Jeffrey or somebody else. We, like, kind of went there, we watched it, and we all had, like, tears in our eyes.
Just
right?
really
And
powerful.
we were great, great, it works. I mean, sometimes you're really not sure
You
if
don't
certain
know.
things work. Because the instinct was first, a lot of people said, like, why is he not immediately rushing in? Why is he not rushing to his son? And
Well, it's such a dramatic moment. You
Well,
want to
and I
milk
kind of
it,
felt-
and it's also
yeah.
real. You after all that, it's almost like you're stunned. You can't move.
Just received a shortwave radio transmission.
Shot, the way it's lit, when we do the reverse.
Yeah,
Oh, in the wide shot actually.
Yeah,
The wide
yeah,
shot,
yeah.
which is seen.
yeah,
It's good news.
It's good news, Tom.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's a nice moment.
working.
Yeah.
But it's probably the scene we labored the most.
Oh my
right?
god. Well, this whole.
But it's always like
we spent forever with the voiceover and how much, and we had more and we had less.
Yes.
This was the hardest, I think, part for us in the editing process. The last 3-4 minutes of the film.
And there were actually two things which I knew have to help us there. First of all, do one piece, of the speech, and then don't
And break.
continue,
Right.
and then come later back to the scene. Otherwise, it always felt too short. whatever he said, it felt.
But also, what's great about it is that you have the voiceover, you have the president's speech, and rhythmically, then you kind of slam in with those helicopters, which really is incredibly. Here we go. Whoosh!
And then you like
Really
hear
fantastic.
nothing, and you like kind of now
That's a great shot too.
make people aware of like a lot of time has kind of passed. He's now like kind of talking for 15 minutes already, and it reminds you again where you were.
The
You
shot
don't
of that
hear
very
anything.
expensive set
Yeah,
in there,
exactly.
that little piece there.
Exactly, like for
No,
5
but
minutes.
that's right.
And now you kind of go back to
The heart.
to the heart, and now you only tell the story about that there are survivors.
Right.
All kinds of version
Oh
of
my
where
God.
in one version he even said the name. Remember?
Yeah, we got too specific.
Yeah, we got
and
too
and it was
specific.
too much. Jack saves the world.
Yeah.
People survive odds and in the face of tremendous adversity.
Here it's like it's yeah.
What was nice is we were all you, me, Jeffrey, David. I mean, we kept thinking this is great. How do we find that balance? And I think it took us really till the end.
Yeah.
And we almost, if we remember, we almost blew this because we had at one point hundreds of helicopters and thousands of survivors, and it was just it was sort of totally antithetical to what the movie was about. Lost a couple of visual effect shots that we would have liked to have had in the film because we didn't have the time to finish them because we put the ending back the way it was supposed to be. I mean, I think we were fine. That one shot that's coming up really sells the whole thing of the level and how many survivors there are. This is all visual effects. It's amazing what can be done. This is a really nice mop-up, as Harold would say. The mop-up. So beautiful here. We had clapping.
Yeah, we
At
had
one
like
point, which
cheering.
was too much because we were afraid that you wouldn't quite see that there were people on the
There were
roofs.
like kind of at one point you couldn't see the people
Exactly.
anymore. Purpose of the shot were that you have to see some people.
Yeah. The idea that we were able to, I think, leave the audience feeling uplifted at the end, in spite of the fact that we destroyed the entire northern hemisphere. And this is such a great moment here. This line, so good at the end.
Totally unrealistic, that shot, but
That's okay.
we had to do it anyway.
Real life is no excuse for bad drama.
Exactly.
It's a great shot of the earth. And here comes our 8-minute end title sequence. We can skip that, don't you think, Roland? We'll let that play without us.
It's the longest. The woman who like had to kind of set the types. It's the longest the most names she ever had in an end credit.
Well, also it started out at 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just so long, it was ridiculous, and we kind of sped it up, and we were worried it would be too fast. But 8 minutes later, I think everybody was perfectly happy to say goodnight.
Also, because we had so many units, we had like the El Paso unit, we had the New York.
Well, what did somebody say? We
LA
must have
unit.
employed the entire city of Montreal in this film. How many digital artists do you think worked on 1,000?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
About at least
unbelievable how many people there were working on this movie. All you have to do is sit for 8.5 minutes and watch the end credits, and you'll see.
And count, maybe where somebody wants to count,
How many names there are?
Yeah. I think
57, 58, 432.
I think we like already started too late.
Proud of this movie.
Me too.
I really feel so good about it, and it was 2.5 years, and it was hard, and but it was worth it. It's just really nice to work on something, no matter how long you work on it, but to feel so good about what you've done, about what the movie was about, and the fact that I think it turned out the way we hoped it would.
Mm-hmm. It's sometimes strange. You start with an idea. I mean, I read this book called The Coming of the Global Superstorm, which is from Whitley Strieber and Art Bell, and immediately hit me, this is a movie. It was like 4 years ago, or more than 4 years ago. And now like kind of seeing the movie finished, it's a strange feeling for me, because you read some book, and I kind of nearly needed 1 year to kind of acquire the rights, because they had sold it like kind of to
that was complicated. It took a long time.
Lionsgate. But I have to say, I'm happy that I got the rights, and I'm happy that I did the movie.
And now,
Okay, the end. Let's move on to delete scenes.